Well, the matter is kind of resolved, but there are a lot of lingering questions.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Stephen Brown, the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union local office here, is my guest this evening. I don't know, Steve and I are on like a tear. I think we've agreed on the last dozen issues. So both of us are going to need a shrink over this whole thing before this time is over. But maybe it's my old age, and maybe I'm getting to be a clearer thinker. Maybe it's just the way the dice has been rolled here. But there are some things going on, and I'm just always shocked at the lack of actualized capability that local political types have for what their jobs are. And we're going to talk about that tonight. Great to have you in on this Thursday. Now, there are some program scheduling issues. We recorded this program on Wednesday, and usually we get hammered by that kind of a schedule, but it just happened to be that as we were beginning our taping today, we got word that the story we're going to talk about has changed. But let me start at the beginning, and then we'll run through, and Stephen will join us. So once upon a time, this happened earlier this week, a headline here, where the North Smithfield Town Council passed a resolution by a 3-2 vote, sponsored by its president, former state trooper John Beauregard, to suggest to its school department and any other department that they not purchase Nike gear as an expression of their upset over Nike bringing Colin Kaepernick as a spokesperson. Let me lay out the story from Eyewitness News and then tell you what's changed.
As the rain falls on North Smithfield Town Hall Tuesday, the town's resolution on Monday night is making headlines across the country.
I think it's despicable. This is not good government.
It's totally un-American.
Motion passes.
The council voted 3-2 to request departments not purchase Nike products after the company made Colin Kaepernick the face of a new ad campaign. The council president, John Beauregard, says it was because of Kaepernick's comments about police officers. The town administrator stressed it's just a request, not a mandate, and said there's no need for further action. I dug through the North Smithfield School's athletic department budget for this fiscal year and added up all of the expenses on tennis balls to batting helmets and jerseys, $300 here, $800 there, and the total is $27,900. So I asked the athletic department what portion of that are products made by Nike, but I didn't get a response.
We need to purchase product.
The ACLU said they will consider legal options over the next few weeks.
It is our responsibility to be guardians of free speech and not in judgment of it.
School committee member Paul Jones spoke at the meeting Monday against the measure.
Threatens to be an unwelcome and unnecessary distraction at a period of such import in our town.
Jones says many parents and students have reached out against the resolution as well. The council president said he couldn't talk Tuesday, but defended the vote.
If all things are equal, if the difference is negligible, it's just a request to not go with Nike. But if they can save, if the savings is substantial, then I'm not saying to not try to save the town money.
That's him backing up in the middle of the process because the heat was so much in the kitchen leading up to that particular vote that all of a sudden, you know, let's see if we can pull this back and try to be cute to a fault. Here's what happened, though. Today, meaning Wednesday, you're seeing this on Thursday, so yesterday when we were taping the show, just before the taping, we got this story that was running through the news. North Smithfield Council President backs down on the call for the Nike boycott, and he issued a 3-paragraph press release, which we'll read to you coming up. Good enough. Stephen Brown from the ACLU put a significant amount of pressure on the town council by speaking out against this. I had 2 radio shows that were blistering on this. And frankly, Steve, I was fending off a lot of folks who see this Colin Kaepernick thing as something we got to stand up for. And So why don't we pretend for a second that this thing is still a boiling tempest?
Okay.
Because I think there are lessons to be learned here, not just for the town of North Smithfield, but for any town. And reportedly, there have been a couple of spotty towns across the country that have tried to do this. One in Louisiana, where they tried to make it a binding resolution, which was like, you know, woo, woo, woo. That's not constitutional.
And they backed down there.
So when you found out about this, your first impression was
Shock. You know, there are
shock with everything you've seen in the world. Shock.
I was. There were only two other places before North Smithfield took this action. There were only two other places where these attempted government boycotts were proposed. One was in Louisiana, and the other was in Mississippi. So, you know, to see Rhode Island be the third one really did surprise me. I did not expect this to be an issue in our state.
So tell me what you mean by that. Louisiana, Mississippi, Rhode Island. What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying how surprised I am that, you know, racial issues are really out in the open in the South, for good and for bad. It's not something that's so direct that you would expect to see it out front in Rhode Island.
Well, you know, that's fascinating because I have had so many discussions over my career, both on the air and off the air, about this thing called racism, which I think is an overused term. You know, bigotry is a behavioral thing. I think every one of us have a little bit of bigotry for whatever it happens to be in us, and we do our best as mature people to try to think through it. Racism is systemic. But one of the things I've always found is in New England, and Rhode Island is not exempt from this, is that racism is quieter.
That's exactly my point. And I think people who come from the South and move to the North, it's not just Rhode Island. I don't want to pick on Rhode Island either. It's a North versus South thing. You will hear lots of people say that same thing. You know, in the South, you know, race is out there. Again, both for good and for bad. People recognizing racial issues, people doing things bad on racial grounds. In New England, in the North, the racism is there, but it's not overt.
Yeah, I've always used the term subtle. It's a subtle.
I agree.
And I would think that subtle racism. Again, we're not necessarily talking about North Smithfield here. I'm not sure. I sense you cannot avoid the race part of this conversation if you're thinking it through. But I'm not. Yes,
let me be clear. I'm not suggesting North Smithfield Town Council or President Beauregard was. I mean, he was clearly coming at it from a law enforcement standpoint.
Right.
And that's
and an emotional, personal point. And we're going to have to talk about that. And this is where I think your expertise really comes into play here. But to finish the racial conversation, so neither one of us lead the conversation astray. I've seen too many things that have gone on around here that you can say, come on now, and the issue might be X, but we know what the Y is, and that was your point, I guess, in terms of
partly. Again, I don't want to. If you read the resolution, I mean, it really is, from our perspective, a very inflammatory resolution that the town council passed.
And I'm surprised it got by a lawyer, to be honest with you. I mean, the decision for binding, non-binding, obviously had to be impacted by legal recommendation, but the actual language in the resolution itself was very loose and undisciplined, I thought. It was,
and it was inflammatory. That was the first word that came to my mind. You know, when we first contacted town council, we found out about it Monday morning. They were voting on it Monday night. We immediately sent out a letter, and we didn't know exactly what the resolution said, other than that it was a request to have municipal departments not purchase Nike products. I was really surprised when we finally got a copy of the resolution, which was kept secret until the town council meeting that night. And after reading it, I sort of understood why, because it really
Well, let me say, a resolution requesting that the school, this is on my phone, that the school department, as well as other departments of the town, refrain from purchasing products from the Nike Sporting Goods and Clothing Company. And I'll just give you some examples. Whereas Colin Kaepernick has been selected as a representative of the Nike Sporting Goods Company, whereas Colin Kaepernick has compared police to modern-day slave patrols, whereas Colin Kaepernick has shown such disdain for the police officers who have truly sacrificed sacrificed everything, when in reality he has sacrificed nothing. Whereas Nike's decision to promote Kaepernick in the face of, as the face of Nike is an insult and slap to the hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers throughout the country. And Nike's decision to promote him will only continue to fan the flames of the endless fallacy that police are nothing more than inhumane tyrants looking to take out unprovoked abusive force on African Americans. It just kept going and going and going, and I mean, that is some freelance speech going on there, don't you think?
It's very powerful, and that's what surprised me, that it got so inflammatory.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we'll talk about the legal arguments the ACLU would make that this was problematic, and you know, what we've learned from it, what other towns can take from it. Stay with us. All right, let's get to the bottom line on this Colin Kaepernick situation with North Smithfield. Again, Kaepernick, the 49ers, former 49ers quarterback who did that and started the whole kneeling situation. Of course, the president couldn't leave it alone, right? So he helped to exacerbate the entire thing. And of course, the NFL took a hit, some significant double-digit percentages on spectators and television viewing and all that kind of thing. The reason the ACLU stepped up about this resolution, binding maybe, then non-binding eventually, that was passed, to eventually suggest, you know, and ask that Nike products not be purchased, your argument was what?
Our argument was that this violated the First Amendment, and it's actually a fairly simple principle, and that is that a government agency should not be deciding whether to purchase products or who to purchase products from based on political views, which is what this is. Nike took as the head of an ad campaign somebody, because of his political views, controversial political views as they may be, but because of the politics. And that, you know, to have a government agency rely on politics to make a decision like that simply isn't countenanced by the First Amendment. You can't be retaliated against by the government simply because of the views you hold. You know, the examples I give are, suppose the town council passed a resolution and say we're no longer going to purchase any products from Democrats or Republicans or people who voted, who gave contributions to President Trump, or somebody who volunteers for the ACLU, or anybody advertising on the Dan York show. People might have legitimate reasons to say, we really don't want to do business with anybody who does business with these other people. But it's not what the First Amendment allows. So you can't be punished simply because you speak out on issues, you're taking political stands. The government can't say, well, we don't want to deal, we're not going to deal with you anymore.
So, you know, I have a more acute reason, and I'll offer that. But you know, when I was arguing those points on the radio for a couple of days, some people tried to test me, which is good, over things like, well, you know what, the federal government sometimes decides that it's not going to do business with Iran based on you know, and I'm making this up hypothetically, but you know, we're not going to do business with Iran based on terror issues. We're, you know, so let's talk about an international decision. What about divesting in South Africa, no longer with a portfolio? Show that kind of stuff. There was a lot of that going on, you know, a decade and a half or so ago. Your response to that is what?
Well, the major response would be we aren't dealing with free speech issues there. There are other reasons that the government is deciding not to do business. It's not because they have spoken out on particular issues, and that's what the First Amendment is about. It's about speech, protest, and not allowing the government to punish you for those reasons. So that would be the major distinction with, you know, with the types of examples you've just given. Also, on a more refined basis, I think that, and that is the answer that I would give as well. I don't know what camera I'm on, but that's the one I would give. Which one, Ken? Over there. But there's a reason why there are bidding rules.
That's right. There's a reason why over a certain amount of money, a government agency must make an open competition for their business. for this expressed point of view. You know, favoritism, you know, cronyism, all those kinds of things are prevented by bidding rules.
That's exactly right. You know, there are lots of reasons to decide not to purchase from a company, because the product is shoddy, because they're way too expensive, all sorts of objective reasons that, you know, should be in policy, in regulations. But if you say we're not going to do business with particular individuals, particular businesses, because of what they believe in, you are opening the door to all sorts of cronyism, arbitrary decision making, and violations of the First Amendment.
I think your arguments are right on the money and completely acute. Unfortunately, people got wrapped up, even in the hearing that they had Monday, on the actual arguments about whether police have been respected or not by Colin Kaepernick and his foundation, whether the community has been well served by police across the country. Hey, listen, benefit of the doubt, I don't need to put my career in editorial commentary for 35 years up here as proof that I've always given police officers the benefit of the doubt instinctively. I mean, it just is what's been the case. But this thing, it's not about necessarily police officers. Just because John Beauregard, the president, who, by the way, is invited here still, has turned us down on both the radio and television. He says he's too busy. He could sew for a living and decide that, you know, we're not going to you know, buy sewing machines from somebody because he had a personal thing with a, I don't know where he came up with that, but this was not about cops versus Kaepernick. This was about, I think, an abuse of power, where a personal, you know, you see the Nike ad watching Sunday afternoon football, all of a sudden you come in and decide that you're going to put a town resolution up, and when a resolution happens, binding or not binding, and we should talk about that distinction, binding or not binding, you're speaking for the taxpayers and the town taking a case against an organization. Fix the roads, make sure the trains run on time, police and fire, do the zoning stuff, you know, fund the schools. I mean, that's your job. This is not your privilege.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you know, the issues, I mean, all the issues underlying this, you know, police brutality, racial injustice, these are all topics of legitimate conversation. We need to have these conversations. There's going to be debate and controversy. The question is whether you make town policy based on
and
them.
So you stepped up, and I'm sure was a major player in the whole let's get off the binding thing. But let's do it non-binding, because we're just going to suggest to the school department. Did you think you had a case to enforce there as well?
It makes admittedly, it does make the case a bit harder because it's not an actual mandate. But, you know, I think in a small town like North Smithfield, it would be fairly easy to show that when a town council makes a request to a town department, they're more likely than not going to accept the request. And so it becomes almost the same as an order.
So let me tell you. Let me just read real quick the press release that Mr. Beauregard sent out. At a North Smithfield Town Council meeting this past Monday, I proposed a resolution only requesting town departments refrain from doing business with Nike. I was a state trooper for 25 years. This gives me a perspective that's unique from the general population. I did not expect that my attempt to make a simple non-binding request to show a sign of respect for the men and women in law enforcement, especially those who have sacrificed their lives for our safety, would be so grossly and incorrectly distorted and misrepresented. All anyone had to do was understand my position and take the time to watch the video of the council meeting. This had nothing to do with race. It was about those who truly believed in something and sacrificed everything. I mean, I could go on, but he said more or less, what he's saying is, backlash to the town, I'm regrouping, the emails and the social media were abhorrent. I don't want anybody to be mistreated on their public behavior, mistakes or not, as an elected official. But he's still missing the point. He's still missing the points.
For me, it's the bottom line. You know, the fact that he was willing to reconsider for whatever reasons is fine by me. I hope that everybody will learn some lessons from this.
Well, I'm glad it's fine by you, but it's not fine by me. See, because I don't want the next town to say this is not your job, and this is a violation of your First Amendment arguments and bidding processes, for heaven's sake. It's really as mechanical as that. Like, know what you've been elected to do, right?
No, that's legitimate. I mean, certainly the point about having a fair bidding process and not letting arbitrary and unconstitutional conditions go into those decisions is an extremely important one. But again, I'm still glad that for whatever reasons the town council is reconsidering.
Well, it's just another case you don't have to prosecute. When we come back, Steve says there's good news in Rhode Island government, and we'll tell you about that when we come back. Only have a couple of minutes left with Stephen Brown from the ACLU. The State Ethics Commission did a smart thing, you think, recently?
They did a very good thing, a very good thing for the public. They were considering changing their policy right now when an ethics violation is alleged. Members of staff of the commission investigate it and put together an investigatory report for the commission to review. The commission then makes a decision whether there's probable cause to proceed with a formal hearing on the violation. For years, that investigatory report has been made public, so people have an opportunity to see what the evidence was and what the evidence, what the evidence was that the commission decided either to accept or not accept. I won't go into all the details, but for various legitimate reasons, the commission was considering rescinding that and making those investigatory reports confidential. There was a long hearing on it, they heard testimony, and at a recent meeting, they decided to stick with their current policy of transparency, keeping these investigatory reports public, and I thought that was really a great thing.
All right, good for the State Ethics Commission. We only have a minute here, but this immigration story that we have followed, the woman's name is
Lillian Calderon.
Lillian Calderon. We've done a handful of shows on this, but we found out something really horrifying, I think, and that is, you would suggest that immigration officials have been bringing people in kind of as a bait.
Yes, so what we found out, and this is from legal discovery in the lawsuit that's been filed on her behalf, is that you have an agency called the Citizen and Immigration Service, which is the non-law enforcement arm of immigration.
You have ICE come on in, let's talk about your stuff.
Right, so, there's an actual policy that allows women or men like Lillian Calderon to change their status because they're married to a U.S. citizen, they've been here for a number of years, so you can go through a process to get your status changed. And that's exactly what she was doing. She was going to an interview set up with Citizen and Immigration Service to change her status. What we found out was Citizen and Immigration Service is on the phone all the time to ICE saying, we have somebody here you can pick up. And that's exactly what happened to Lillian. So this agency that is set up to help people like Lillian, we learned, was actually acting in collaboration with ICE.
Is that new with the Trump administration?
As far as we know, yes.
Guys, I don't even know how we get there from here. And how career people who are working in those positions now, I guess out of fear or anxiety of their own jobs, are like double agents to their alleged cause.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly the opposite of what those agencies should be doing.
All right. Well, at least you don't have a North Smithfield case to prosecute this week.
Sure.
Or to litigate on. Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Steve Brown from the ACLU. Final word when we come back. Clarification, Mr. Beauregard, the president of the Town Council of North Smithfield, has not yet declined to come on the television show, but he's given us all sorts of logistics on the radio side. He's more than welcome to come in. We don't bite. We may bark, but we don't bite. Coming up tomorrow, we will revisit a conversation we had with Alan Rosenberg from the Providence Journal. And then you may have seen on some of the news today, on this Thursday, that polling data is out on the general elections. We'll talk to the smart guys in this building about that Monday, all right? Thanks for watching. You have a great evening. See ya.